Okay, guys, I'm so sorry. My live stream was disrupted by my connection, but yeah, I'm back on YouTube again, guys. Sorry about that. All right, so this is my podcast number 13, guys. Sorry, I'm just going to do a follow up here. So I spoke a little bit about the Oxford research person, Paul Rogers, who talked about People's War and how the Americans used it. Okay, so somebody asked me here, so I think it was neo-colonial policy here by Kulumulu. Okay, what is that? Okay, please tell me something on the neo-colonial policy here. Okay, so basically, I actually spoke to you about the neo-colonialism. Okay, so basically, it pretty much okay. It refers to a kind of an administration where, for example, the Bush used this. Okay, he called it a theocratic, doctrine. Okay, also known as Bush doctrine. Okay, so pretty much, some of the ingredients for, some of that doctrine was, military imperial values and theocratic overtones. Okay, so basically, it means that if there's any problem, if there's any problem with the American administration or America's foreign policy, what it does is we will go outside of our comfort zone, of our land, of our country, and we'll go outside and we'll intervene. Okay, so yeah, so we have a lot of intervention policies that is very much related to colonialism, by the way. And also a lot of multilateral, relations and all that. So you can Google it, by the way. But let me just get back. I spoke to you a little bit about it, but maybe I'll delve into it a little bit more later. Okay, just hang in there. I still have to finish my word of thought here. Okay, so basically, like I said, this whole people think like, oh, this whole war on terror, is kind of like a conspiracy. Okay, because I'll tell you why. Having said that, okay, so the United States, since Cold War has been fighting a lot of wars. Okay, they have fought a couple of wars in Iraq, Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, okay, and all that places. Uh, all this aggression is not the result of a paranoid theory per se. Okay, but simply a convergence of political and economic interests traveling under the rubric of war on terror. Okay, so I would say this argument is not based on the image of a few evil people, okay, who are plotting like secret, plans to overtake the world, or any kind of evil agendas per se. However, diverging from conspiracy theories does not ignore the fact that indeed there are real conspiracies, okay, such as criminal, illegal, corporate, houses who deal with voting banks. Sorry, yeah. Uh, who corporates, companies, and government conspiracies such as Watergate and Iran Contra scandal, which is part of the corruption of the political system, even in America as well. So yes, there is a conspiracy theory that you know there's a dominance in America where they want to control the world, and there's a handful of people who wants to do that. But if you realize there's a lot of actors here, there's a lot of entities, okay, and history itself is not a conspiracy, okay. Secret societies, well, it could be a conspiracy, but history is not a conspiracy, and we've seen a lot of wars. We have seen a lot of geopolitical and political economic events which took place in our very eyes, and you read the newspapers and all that stuff. So history is not a conspiracy, okay. So that's what the author is pointing out, and I think I agree on that. Okay. So by the way, the author is Blue and Go K. Okay. He was my professor in England, and he's a reader of international relations, politics, and philosophy. All right. Okay. So guys, I'm not going to be talking too much about this. I'm going to move on with the dollar here. Okay, American dollar imperialism. Okay. So this is kind of like my last take on it. So I hope you'll kind of get it. Okay. So the author says, imagine this: you're deep in debt, but every day you write checks for millions of dollars you don't have. Okay. Another luxury car, a holiday home at the beach, the world trip of a lifetime. Your checks should be worthless, but they keep buying stuff because those checks you write never reach the bank. Okay. You have an agreement with the owners of one thing everyone wants, call it petrol gas. Okay. So basically what happened is America during its heydays started giving out a lot of checks. Okay. So when they gave out the checks, the balances were not right because it was pretty much free money. Okay, free money, as in there was a lot of banking institutions, kind of, and people, the normal American people who kind of wrote a lot of checks, and it never reached the bank. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Okay, so this position, okay, this was enjoyed by the USA ever since. Well, it says 30 years in this article, but it's 44 years since 2020. Okay, as of 2020, since 1976. Okay, so why I'm saying this is because the U.S. hegemony. Okay, well, while they became the dominant global power. Okay, after the end Second World War. Okay, some of the U.S. hegemony rested on three pillars. Okay, some of the pillars. Number one is overwhelming U.S. military superiority all over the world. Okay. Now, number two is superiority of American production methods and the relative strength of the U.S. economy. Okay. Number three is control over global economic market, with the U.S. dollar acting as the global reserve currency. Okay. So, guys, if you didn't know, like the U.S. dollar was the role of the dollar was pretty much it was pegged, okay, to a lot of powers that people don't realize this, and that's how people started. The whole world started using the dollar currency as the main base of exchange, okay, currency exchange, okay. So it was almost like the world reserve currency, okay, at that point, all right. And meaning all the central banks all over the world had huge amounts of dollars in reserve, and so basically banks, in Brazil, banks in India, banks in China, uh, you know, Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Singapore, pretty much they had dollars in reserves. Okay. As a result of the situation, okay, today America borrows from practically, sorry, the entire world without keeping the reserves of any other currency, right? Because the dollar is a de facto global currency reserve during those days. Okay, so it wasn't too long ago, I would say. U.S. currency accounts for approximately 2/3 of all official exchange reserves. So this is during, around, before 2000, 2008, I would say, before the dot-com crash and all that stuff. Okay, we have Dr. Neo. Good evening, sir. Well, good evening to you. I hope your evening is going well. So, anyways, so like I said, the dollar was the de facto, okay? And I'm going to briefly tell you how did this work, okay? So the United States runs a balance of payments deficit by spending more money in other countries, buying their products, investing in them, or giving them dollars. Then they spend in the United States, okay? The extra dollars are held by countries' central banks. So pretty much the United States was using up people's resources, brains, and all that stuff. So we have a question from Dr. Neo here. Where are you from, sir? So I'm from Nagaland, which is in the northeast part of India. Okay, I my state actually comprised of lots of tribes, but the place where I am is called the northeast part of India, and we comprise of 8 states. So yeah. Oh yes, you're from Nagaland as well. Awesome. So I don't need to explain all that. But yeah, nice to meet you, fellow, citizen from Nagaland. Okay. All right. So I talked to you a little bit about the role of dollar and how it became like the de facto currency all over the world. Okay. The U.S. economy began to dominate the world economy in the early 20th century. The U.S. dollar was then tied to the gold. Okay, guys. Nice to meet you as well. Yeah. So the U.S. dollar, it was tied to the gold. Okay. So that the value of the dollar neither increased nor decreased. Okay, but remained the same amount as per the amount of gold. Okay. So that's kind of important because most of the money was made in paper, so they could print out as much paper as they want, but they still had the gold, because when they had the gold, there was more value to it. And how did they get the gold? They got the gold pretty much when they fought wars in the Second World War, and and the many wars when they pretty much said, okay, in exchange for money we'll take gold. Okay, so that's what they did. All right. So okay, so as we know, the American empire, okay, the financial system of America and the world was kind of pegged in with the dollar. Okay, so this is kind of interesting, because if you do study a little bit about the international monetary system here, you will come across the Bretton Woods. Okay, the Bretton Woods, which was originated during 1945. After 1945, so we're talking about World War II, by the way, right? Sir, are you from our community? Yes, I'm from our community, and also I'm part Angami as well. Okay, all right. But I'd like to call myself a citizen of the northeast part of India, per se. Yeah. Anyways, like I said, Bretton Woods, it came out during 1945. All right. Good to know. So I suppose you're a doctor, are you? I think you're a doctor. If you say you're Dr. Neo, uh, I'll take that as a yes. Okay. So after 1945, the dollar was not fully convertible to gold, but was made convertible to gold only to foreign governments. Okay, so you're not a doctor, but it's okay. That's a cool name. So, anyways, the funny thing about American policy and the whole Bretton Woods system was that they decided we're going to use the dollar, and we're going to benefit from the rest of the world by pegging the dollar to the gold. And all the conversion of the gold was only to foreign governments. Imagine, that is very partial, I would say. But nevertheless, countries were that that rich as America was in those days. So, anyways, as a result, the dollar established itself as the gold reserve currency. Okay, this became possible because during Second World War, the U.S. had supplied its allies with provisions demanding gold as payments. I told you. See, even the author says he pretty much said the same thing that I said, that what the United States did when they won wars or when they fought with their enemies is that, or when they got supplied by their allies, is that they demanded gold as the payment, and they they gathered a lot of portions and saved it all across their economic system, and it was pretty much the whole world's gold reserve. Pretty much, they had collected. Uh, well, you would call it the acquisition of gold, I would say, and I think that they did definitely a very good job on that, and that's how the U.S. Had 80% of the world's gold and 40% of the world's production. Okay, so but however, okay, it's very interesting here when America fought the Vietnam War. Okay, guess what? By 1970, the gold coverage had fallen to 55%, right? By 1971, it went to 22%. So that's a very big, fall. Okay, 55% to 22%. So, in other words, if you want to put it in monetary perspective here, during the Vietnam War, a lot of Americans died. Okay, but the monetary aspect, the difference here with the percentage in the money is that the U.S. had 30 billion of gold reserves, right? So this was before the wars that they went in Vietnam and all that stuff, Cambodia, all that stuff. So Americans had 30 billion of gold reserves. Okay, they were one of the richest. Okay, so after they went to war, they used up 300. Sorry, not 300. They spent more than 500 billion on the war alone. So that's a big deficit. That's a big negative on their, on their Fed reserves. Okay. So I think you get where I'm going at. Okay. So that's where you start hitting depression. Okay. And the whole economic fallout. Okay. So by this time, the post-war Reconstruction period had come to an end, and the European and Japanese economies had improved their economic position relative to the U.S. As we know, Japan was doing very well after World War II, and they were actually number two for a very long time, as per their GDP. So also, the funny thing is when the United States financial system kind of became very evident by 1965 that it was not doing well. The French president de Gaulle demanded gold from the U.S. in exchange for 30 million in debt. So U.S. was on debt already. So guys, there's a reason why we're fighting this trade war, okay? And people don't realize this, okay? And if you don't realize this, okay, recently, so all the petrodollar, I'll tell you a little bit about the petrodollar, okay? And it's crucial links to what I'm saying here. I don't know if whoever's investor or all that, I think these are very important things that we should know. So guys, I'm going to cut this very short here, but okay, hold on here. The Bretton Woods system was made in such a way that the dollar was pegged to the gold, okay, and the dollar was the de facto currency, okay. So all the currencies or all the exchanges was done in dollar during those days, okay. However, the situation reached a crisis point during 1970 to 71, right? When more foreign central banks tried to convert their dollar reserves into gold, okay? In response to a massive flight from the dollar. So the dollar was losing very much after the wars and all that stuff, right? The US government defaulted its payment on 15 August, okay, guys, 15 August, right? 1971 by cutting the link to the dollar and the gold. So when did the link between the dollar and gold was cut out? It was during 15 August 1971. Okay, that's when we started seeing a lot of multilateral players and entities that came about. For example, you have a lot of public companies too in the world, which are actually much more richer than many countries. Okay, but anyways, hence the Bretton Woods system was ended. Okay, this was a serious crisis. Why? Because the Western hegemons and the Western countries were solely relying on the Bretton Woods system, but it crashed eventually. Okay. As a result, the dollar was left floated in an international monetary market. Okay, which weakened the position of the dollar as a hegemonic currency. Now, what happened now? So when the dollar fell, okay, when the dollar was no more the hegemonic currency or de facto currency, so the government started to use credit, okay. The whole credit system, okay, I'll talk to you maybe some other time, but so pretty much the global crisis that I was talking to you about, okay, which was part of the fall of the gold currency, okay, and the U.S. economy was primarily related to the subprime mortgage lending in the United States that spread through the interconnected global financial system. So what I mean by subprime mortgage lending is it's pretty much housing. Okay, people took out a lot of loans, people took out a lot of mortgage, and like I said, people were writing checks those days. And exactly what happened after uh, the Bretton Woods fell, the same thing Americans did. They said, okay, we're still going to use the the Bush doctrine, okay, which is well the neo-conservative administration system, and we're going to say, okay, world, listen up. Okay, we might have fallen, but we're not going to stop giving out checks. We're not going to stop giving out mortgage loans and free money to people because we love our people so much. But the problem is, when they did that, um, a lot of the capitalism was thriving, I would say. Public companies and private companies and private banks were doing very well. But the problem was they started accumulating a lot of debts. Okay, especially in America. Yes, so that left the government with full faith of credit. Okay, that was not a good thing. From that point on, the U.S. had to find a way of convincing the rest of the world to continue to accept devalued dollars in exchange for economic goods and services the US needed to get from others. So I quote, okay, by Gokey, okay. He says, it had to find an economic reason for the rest of the world to hold US dollar. Oil provided that reason, and the term petrodollar became the crucial link in this, unquote. So guys, that's it, man. That was the genesis of petrodollar. Okay, that's when America went into a full-out battle with the Middle East. Okay, especially in the war in Iraq and Iran, where they pegged again the dollar to the petrodollar. So yeah, and now we're seeing a very different narrative here. What happened was China. I think China sounded America not too long ago, a couple of years ago. I don't know if it was approximately around 2017 before, okay, that we're not going to buy oil from Iran or Middle East in dollars anymore, okay. What we're going to do is we're going to buy our own oil with our own money, okay, not through United States, not through the petrodollar, okay. So that was when it was the striking moment when the United States and the Western hegemons, the Western countries, felt the pitch. Okay, it was almost like a slap in the face because of the rise of Asia, and Asia becoming the independent, nation as it was before. So yeah, I think the whole trade war is kind of related to this as well. So we see kind of like a pattern of evidence of you know doctrines after different administration using tactics and influences on certain valued products or resources, which is tied to pretty much how power is supposed to be used by a particular country or particular group of people or community, which for our conversation is the the Western Bloc and the Western countries, America, and also versus the Eastern and the Middle Eastern. Yeah, so that's. I hope you liked it. I did get a lot of comments, but for some reason my my live stream kind of cut short for my YouTube live, but I got back again. But anyways, guys, it's kind of late now, but thank you for joining me in. And so I hope you have gathered some information about the genesis and the end of petrodollar, and also how we should be aware of what our the things that happened in the past, especially with the dollar being pegged to different entities and how we are being affected. All right, guys. So next time, probably I'll talk to you about something else, a little more interesting if you didn't like this podcast. But hey, thank you very much for joining in, and I'll see you in my next podcast. All right. Okay. Any questions? Feel free to ask. I'll be here for about another 5 minutes. Yeah. Thank you, Jem. I appreciate it. All right. We have a couple of people here. I know it's late here. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you do have any interesting topics that you want me to talk about, or maybe do a podcast with you guys, um, like live stream where people can come on the screen, or you can chat, or you can come on a voice call. Let me know any topics, uh, or any current events or discoveries, or anything related to science discoveries or archaeological, etc., etc. Please let me know, and we can definitely do our research, and maybe we can try to talk about it and find some solutions here. But thank you very much, guys. I think I'm going to wrap it up for tonight, and I love you all, and God bless everyone. All right, okay. Take care. Bye bye.